Yeah.
We need to figure out what our intro is
Ooh.
going to be as well.
Yes, we do.
You know in Radiolab how he's like, Jad, Rod, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Jad,
This is
Rod, blah, blah, blah.
PencilDust.
Yeah, but we're not that cool, so...
Yeah. What do you want to say? I am Lucy.
And I'm Sophie.
And this is our inaugural second episode of PencilDust.
Today we are talking about
Creativity and art while growing up.
being a human as a child, a teenager, young adult,
And
an adult.
how that tracks.
And beyond.
Where you went, how you started,
And
where you
you're
ended
going.
up,
Yeah.
and that.
I think about my childhood a lot. I love memory. I love reminiscing. Sometimes only good things, but sometimes bad things and everything in between. And I just love memory and childhood memory, and we're trying to find like where everything came from, like who is me and why is me.
When did that happen?
Yeah.
I feel similar in that I do like think about childhood moments a lot, but part of my experiences with being ill have like led to me having a massive disconnect to who I was before I got sick to now. So it's interesting looking back to like early childhood as well, because the child I was is kind of connected to part of the issues I had when I was unwell. I went through a stage of kind of viewing it as not great, as like viewing myself as not great as a child, and then have kind of now rethought parts of it. Everyone has moments in their childhood that like are just like ingrained, and they can be really random.
I feel like a lot of them happen before puberty as well.
Yes.
Like this is all pre-pubescent stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like that's when it's really juicy.
Yeah.
Like experiences are so new and crunchy in all the ways.
Yeah.
For me.
And they
anyway.
just stick in you. I think we wanted to talk about that along with creativity. We both are now very creative humans, both artists, but we had different ways of getting there. You have always drawn.
I have
and
literally
made.
always drawn and made stuff. And yeah, I don't know. It sounds very cliche, right? When you're like, I've always drawn. I've just born with a pencil. I could draw before I could talk, kind of thing. But it's true. It's true though. Yeah, some of my earliest memories are making stuff.
It's interesting. I think that art was like drawing and painting and stuff was part of my childhood, but not in the way that it wasn't a reprieve or it wasn't like something I did all the time, but creativity in general was a part of my childhood. I have a lot of vivid memories of like my internal imagination.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that was really intense. And then I did a mix of like, I was always arty, but I did dancing and...
You were a theatre kid, weren't you?
Yeah, theatre kid. And when I was like really young, I loved dancing. And I always, like if we were in the car, I remember imagining dance routines in my head, and I could feel my body like moving to these imaginary...
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah, all the time. Anytime we were driving anywhere, like home from school or to
you
swimming.
just have these full-on performances in your inner body.
Yeah, and I could, like, I would move my body in my imagined choreography.
Yeah.
And that was really big. And so drawing wasn't as much of a thing.
But other art forms were. Yeah, totally. Imagination is like the biggest world ever when you're a little kid, and that can definitely be strung out to all different mediums of creativity and art. Yeah, I definitely used to do dance routines as well, and just like tell stories in my head. Like I loved My Little Pony when I was little, And probably mostly they were like fake My Little Ponies from the $2 shop.
Yes.
But they were still My Little Ponies to me. And yeah, I used to have full-on games and stories and universes about them. And sometimes when we were in the car or whatever and I didn't have my ponies with me, I would act it out in my head.
Yeah.
Like a little theatre. Good source of entertainment. Or I would rewatch like The Little Mermaid or whatever Play School episode was on in my head while we were in cars and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, like, we're both really creative. We're both visual artists. But I didn't get there in that traditional way. Or I didn't get there in the way of always being in traditional art and drawing. But when we, like, reflect on both of our childhood experiences, there are shared experiences that I think are more connected to us being somewhat introverted.
Just weirdos.
Weird kids. That, yeah, I think impacts the creative journey.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any specific memories like that?
Definitely ones in, like, primary school. The first experiences of realizing you're weird because someone else has pointed it out.
Yeah.
Or getting in trouble.
Yeah.
That was I have a really clear memory of when I was 5 in year 1 in Queensland. I was sitting outside a classroom with my friend and we were talking, and a teacher came out of the classroom because there was a band rehearsal and got angry at us because we'd been talking and made us come inside and sit. And so we were little year 1s, which is prep here in Melbourne.
So you're like 5, 6 years old?
Yeah, 5 years old. Go in and sit and watch all these kids who are like 12 practice music. And I don't, like, it's just tattooed into my brain.
You were also just talking, like, what's wrong with talking? So, and then when the teacher's like, don't do that.
And there was no warning. Like, it was definitely like, and I would never have thought we were interrupting something.
Yeah.
And it's not even important, but it's tattooed in my brain.
Yeah.
That's one of my earliest memories of all, and it's of getting in trouble. How about you?
I mean, I've got so many. Like, I've got a full journal, which every time I would remember something that, like, changed the trajectory of my life, I would write it down. And they are, like, sometimes really small, seemingly small moments, which I just laugh at so much now. First memories of creativity being my escape or my just, like, healing. I remember it must have been, so my little brother is 2 years younger than me, and then I've got another brother who's 3 years younger again. So he's 5 years younger than me. And I remember a point where my middle brother was wanting to play wrestling, and I wasn't in the mood to play wrestling. So he went off and did wrestling. I think my littlest brother was very young, like toddler, like just walking, kind of young. They were wrestling together on the couch. And I was like, I'm going to do my own version of wrestling. And I went to my little sketchbook in my room and closed the door. I probably had a dog with me because that was my best friend. And I made up a little story on a piece of paper of a little scribble called Squirrel. There was one called Squirrel. There's one called Swirl. There was one called, Whirl. They all had different, they were very 90s. And they were having a wrestling match.
So instead of participating in the actual, like, with your brother,
I just drew
it. You drew them.
I drew
and created a, like, story.
Yes. So I would draw my little character, and then I would draw the other character, and then I would draw them in a wrestling thing, and then, yeah.
That's adorable.
Yeah. So weird.
So that was the, like...
But like...
I'm going to have the same experience, but in my own way and on my own terms.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I was definitely, like, having a stroppy moment, being like, I am not doing wrestling. And then I go and do wrestling anyway.
Yeah.
In my head.
My version.
In my way.
Yeah.
But there was nothing that ever prevented me from, like, fully body slamming my brothers at any time I could. So why didn't I take that opportunity? I don't know. But I think I must have been overwhelmed or...
Yeah.
Who knows?
There was something in it that meant I can't...
Yeah, I can't do that. I can't do that now.
And I'm going to do this.
I'm going to process it somewhere else.
One of my memories... This is, like, I think... I had a lot of my creative memories are when I was alone. And so I remember when we lived in Townsville and we'd have like, was it Townsville or Brisbane? No, it would have been Townsville. We lived there for 2 years or 2 and a bit years. And I'd found a dead lizard that was about the size, it was like a gecko. So probably just under 10 centimeters, but it wasn't a gecko. It was a different kind of lizard and it had died. And so I put it in this tree stump in our backyard and I did a lot of like exploring by myself and that was nice. And then when we moved and we were like getting ready and packing and all that stuff, I remember looking in the tree stump and the skeleton. It was just this perfect skeleton. Yeah. And like, again, did I take it? No. Did I, like, it's not like I kept it. It's just stuck
your
in my
own
head.
thing.
Yeah. And so I think it's kind of escaping into like moments of imagination, particularly in nature in Townsville. So I was probably 8 and 9. That was really big one. I had a very vivid internal world, but I don't think I realised that at the time.
Yeah, because kids don't know to talk about that stuff either. Like, what words do you use to talk about your internal stuff?
Yeah, you don't.
Did you have imaginary friends and all that as well?
No.
No, I didn't either.
No. Never had imaginary friends.
I tried to, just because the TV shows had them.
Yes, I tried to have imaginary friends. I tried to sleep with a soft toy because that's what you did. That's what I saw on TV. And it would always, I'd wake up and it was out of the bed on the floor. And I was so annoyed at my inability.
Why cannot I be a normal child and sleep with a teddy bear?
Very random. But yeah, definitely had like these things. And I think that connects to when we're kids and we start to learn like expectations or we start to put like notice around us when we're not either not fitting in or when we want to be a certain person because we've seen it and we can't. For you, when you were a kid, you had a really rich...
You saying that sentence before about noticing the world around you and what was regular, usual, and what, you know. I was definitely a huge observer of other people and how they did things. And even when it came to art and drawing and writing, I would be like, oh, what's she doing? Oh, how is he doing that W? I'm going to copy, and I'm going to copy the way that they draw.
Everything is based on...
even the way people sat, even the way people held their hands, even the way they looked at the teacher, even the way they, you know, everything. I would copy everything that everyone would do because I was like, I'm not sure if I'm doing it the right way.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another one where I think... I did the same thing, and again, I definitely at the time thought that's what everyone did. And when we moved back to Melbourne, I was in year 5, and we had our first assembly, and we were sitting outside on the like netball courts for this assembly, and this boy behind me like tapped on my shoulder and was like, "Why are you sitting up so straight?" Oh, yeah. And I used to sit like straight up, like that was just what I did. And from that moment, I slouched.
Yeah.
Wanting to fit in, and kind of just assuming that that's what you did. Even if that's not what
But also being confused, like, how do they know that, like, sitting up straight is not normal or not cool or whatever? Well, it was just
obviously the weird thing.
Yeah.
Like sitting up straight felt comfortable and I stood out for that reason. And when you're a kid...
You pick on everything.
Yeah, especially getting up into years like 5, 6 and up.
Whatever is unusual is poked at.
Yeah. And so... But I like, again, that's one of these key memories I have of being outside the norm had been pointed out to me. And I think these are all memories that I downplayed or blamed on like anxiety and being an introvert and like being a socially anxious person, which now I see actually is autistic. But I've had to kind of change the way I look at it because not only we look back on these moments and we have these realizations and then we load them up with meaning, but also they can just exist and we can just be kind to our little selves, and it's okay that I was a bit weird and that kid found it a bit weird that I was a bit weird.
Yeah.
And they felt uncomfortable.
Yeah. What was going on for them with that?
Yeah. And it's this interesting balance, I think, especially with we're like diving into the fun territory of late diagnosed autistics and ADHDers. But there's this massive like going back and looking at all of these moments and giving them this massive importance, because it's like, holy heck, that's a thing. But then also I feel the need to acknowledge it and then take away some of that importance, because you can just spend too much time.
Yeah, you were just a little kid experiencing everything for the first time.
And they were the other kids were also little kids doing their thing and wanting to fit in.
No one is fully self-aware at all.
No.
At that age.
Like, and
I didn't become a human until I was 25.
Yes.
You know.
But yeah, I think about that, and I think about how it all links into creativity and the kind of, I guess, a little bit of a shutdown of creativity that happens around that age, maybe.
My creativity powered up at that age. But I also, like, used it to get what I want.
Tell me. Share.
Like, people found out that I could draw.
Yeah.
In whatever. And,
what year?
Oh, probably, like, late primary school.
Yeah.
So grade 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
I would say. And I would use that to my advantage to, like, oh, that person has a packet of salt and vinegar chips. I want that. I would draw you a puppy in exchange for your your salt and pepper, whatever they are.
Salt and vinegar
chippies. I'll have your salt and vinegar chippies if you will take this drawing of a puppy.
Were they like, oh my God, yeah.
Yes.
Do you think you used your creativity to make friends and have friends? Like, what was that?
Nah.
No.
I didn't really care about that.
Trading?
Yeah, just for trades. Just for upgrades. There's this girl, I saw her a couple of years ago and I hadn't seen her since primary school. And she said that I drew a picture of her for trading something, which I don't remember. I think it was a small dog teddy bear. I'm obsessed with dogs. A small dog teddy bear thing, which I still have. And she said that she still has her portrait that I drew of her, and it was on the fridge for like many years.
That's glorious.
Yeah, and even when we were in our early 30s, she still like praised that drawing. So it was obviously a really good trade for her.
I love that.
But no, I think because I was praised so much in primary school for being an artist, it was like my superpower. It was my only superpower, I think.
And it stayed.
And I used to be quite outgoing. I used to do like plays and I used to like talk in front of the assembly and stuff. And I got really badly publicly shamed in late primary school. And that completely changed my personality and I became deadly shy. Like I would barely even talk if people talked to me.
Yeah.
Which I think like carried on into high school. And then when you have puberty, you get even more weird and introverted. So, but art was always my defining characteristic.
Yeah. Interesting.
And all my primary school friends that I run into...
you were the art kid.
I was the art... Everyone remembered. I won some Christmas card competition when I was in grade 6, when I was 12 years old. And multiple people still remember the day that I got that reward at assembly.
That's hilarious. Do you know I went to Pizza Hut once and I drew an alien on a piece of paper and sent it in and I won a Men in Black watch.
That is so cool.
And I actually like thought I was the best. And then later on I thought maybe they just select them at random.
Do they? Probably.
I don't know. That's the thing. I was like, maybe that's...
Because I definitely didn't win as many colouring competitions than I expected to.
This was Men in Black watch from a Pizza Hut alien drawing I did.
That would be worth so much money.
I know. Pity it's long gone.
Art at school, like I said before, early primary school and all primary school and a lot of high school was like my superpower, was what made me interesting. Because I was such a shy and quiet kid that wasn't necessarily in any group. I was one of those people that floated between the cool group, the lame group, the weird group, the whatever groups. Like I just floated around wherever I felt like. I was a floater too. Yeah. Couldn't fit in any. But yeah, I was always the art kid. But yes, in the curriculum world, not as fun. Because it's more like, today we are painting Santa using cotton bud beard, and that is all you have to, and that is the rule. That is what we're doing. No other way to do it.
Cotton buds need to be in this very clear section to make a beard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think similar, like, when I think of art, I wasn't hugely connected to it. And even, like, into, like, high school and stuff, it was still not great. And now when I talk to young people through my work as an art therapist, I'd forgotten that art was not a fun subject. Or not, like, it just wasn't as what art is now. And so when I
didn't
talk
have
to
that
these,
freedom.
Yeah, when I talk to these young kids, they're like, oh, art's not that good. I'm like, really? But then it's like, oh, of course, because you have a curriculum and you have to be able to do this and do that to get that grade. And I'd forgotten that. And so art and creativity kind of existed outside of like that. Oh, and the other thing I remembered is my grandma is an artist, and when I was little, I went to Albury to visit, and she bought me a book. It was like a storybook that had black and white illustrations in it, and we coloured them in, but she coloured outside the line, like she added features to these.
Was your mind like completely blasted?
Yes, because I do remember thinking like, you don't do that. Like, wait, what are you doing? And I vividly remember being like, whoa,
these are the rules and you're breaking the rules, and my little pipsqueak brain can't figure that out.
And not only like we were drawing in a book, like it wasn't a colouring
that
book.
Was multiple you know red flags
and like and
in
it
a good
was
way. Green flags
of creativity, but just having that, like, they're those good realizations, like nice realizations where it's like, ooh, opening
the level up moment of brain.
Of opportunity and widening
fun.
And that again was not a school. You can't. It was the
you
opposite of what you do
school.
That at school.
Oh, what about high school?
High school, I always did art, but I, especially in the early years of high school, I was much more like theatre and music. So I did singing, and that was my thing. And I loved it. My singing teacher at the time, Helena Dix, she is famous. I will say her name and name drop. She's a famous opera singer now. A name drop that is very niche. But that was one of those relationships where all of the kind of introverty, uncomfortable, stressful, turning yourself inwards moments that happened through, like, shaming moments, basically. She kind of undid all of that through singing.
That's amazing.
And through, like, demonstrating. And so I studied voice with her from year 7 to 9 when she was there before she moved to London, and
became famous.
And became famous. But it was like profoundly life-changing. She changed my life. And that was going
to be your career, wasn't it, for a while? You worked heavily at it.
It was. I did it all through school. I changed schools for a music school and started it in uni, and then dropped my bundle and everything went shit. But I even just thinking back and to that kind of creativity, the creativity in our singing lessons, and so much of it was about visualization, and that's like feels quite key to like imagine a ribbon flowing out of your mouth that just keeps going forever.
Wow.
And so you use all these visualization methods to change the sound of your voice.
I didn't know that about singing lessons. Or was that her particular way of teaching?
A lot of with voice, a lot of it's a lot of visualization.
Oh, that's really cool. It's really beautiful.
So headlights is another one, like to keep the sound bright. Imagine that your eyes are headlights.
I probably would have liked choir and singing and music a lot more if I knew that stuff.
Yes. And so all about visualization.
Oh, that's amazing.
So that was really impactful on my personality, I think, as well.
Yeah.
And of seeing someone be confident was really nice. I did art at school, and I just was like, remember just being like lost. Like I did not have, I didn't know what to do, and I didn't.
Do you mean because all your art, like, you know, drawing, painting stuff was all like curriculum based? Like, these are the lines you draw inside of, and now in high school you're like, you have more freedom. You're like, what do I do?
In year 11 and
now?
12, when you're doing like VC and you do like a folio,
you have to come up with
stuff,
concepts yourself.
Yeah. And so it was, I remember.
Oh my God, high school art is so cringy.
Yeah.
It was the height of emo as well when we were in high school.
Absolutely. But one of the ones I realize now was just an exploration of sensory stuff, which is hilarious. Because I did a massive art piece based on Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds by the Beatles.
Yeah.
And one side was like stuffed canvas fabric that was stapled to create these flowing swirly shapes that were then painted. And the other side was dark.
I have a very similar artwork.
Oh my God.
Based on Freddie Mercury. But
Stop
it's like a self-portrait of me on the side, only using black and white, very emo-y, like very scene, like look at me being all sad, and my mouth is open and all these swirly rainbows and all these different textures are coming out of my mouth.
I think that's great.
But that's how I felt as well.
Yes.
Like, I was this shy, debilitatingly shy and quiet kid, black and white.
With an epic imagination. Like, with like, all of this,
spewing out rainbows and stuff.
Yeah. VC art was interesting because it was always just kind of not there. Not right.
But you knew that you were creative and that you had to do something creative? Or did that disappear? Like, did your creativity disappear and then came back again fairly recently, you know?
No, I always felt very creative, probably up until like second year uni, when everything really kind of went to wildness. But even then I still did a lot of creating. Like, you
were writing a lot?
I was writing heaps. And I did a lot of theatre with student theatre at Monash. But it was kind of this shutting down of I think I was using my connections to people and doing art in that way. I don't know how to explain it, but I absolutely did that thing of trying to fit in through art. So the art that my friends were doing, I would try and do. And only recently am I like figuring out my own stuff, but then also being comfortable with having similar stuff or like working that out. Whereas back then I would be, say, writing poetry, knowing it was similar in style to a friend and feeling like a horrible human for doing, like, not only was my poetry terrible, but I was also terrible because
you copied someone.
I was leaning into like trying to kind of write in someone else's style, which I think was like connected to wanting to connect, like it was a connection thing. But yeah, it was a really tricky time and everything kind of fell to shit. And now creativity is completely different and their self-judgment is gone. Yeah. Which is the biggest.
That has been amazing to witness as well, actually, in you.
Yeah.
It's been very cool. Because when we used to live together, you would see me making stuff, and we would make a lot of stuff together, but you would have like a crisis where you're like, I want to do something, but I don't know how to do it, and I want to do what you're doing, but I can't do that, and I don't know what, I'm just going to do some writing, but I hate everything. Like, it was really, like, the craving was immense. You really wanted to make stuff, and you've had a lot of like crises over the years about like, how do I be me?
Yes. How do I, like looking at, knowing you want to do that, knowing creativity is in you, but not really knowing how to get it out. And so you just look at other people, like you look at other artists, you look at your friends, and you're like, I'm going to try that, I'm going to do that. And it doesn't work because it's not you, but also the self-judgment stops you from even like playing and experimenting. And I remember you saying, like, so often, like, it really is practice. Like, so much of art is just keeping on doing it.
And no one wants to hear that.
No one wants to hear that. And also I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
But
there must be a formula,
like,
you know?
or like, yeah, like surely not.
Yeah.
But now, because I did so much art with my work, which isn't, the art isn't the focus, like my art, the focus is the client. Or
do they know what you do? I think I
mentioned it last time.
Yeah.
I'm an art therapist.
Yeah.
And so I spend like all week doing art, drawing, with people. And because the focus wasn't on me or my art, it meant that I just kept going.
But you were secretly leveling
yes,
up all the time.
Because the focus wasn't on
you.
Me.
Yeah.
Like,
you could just make stuff, and you can make terrible stuff, you can make amazing stuff, but that's like what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. And so then I was like, oh, it is practice. Oh.
Sorry, Sophie.
Sorry, Sophie. You're right.
Because art was always my go-to thing and my superpower, I found it hard to like understand why people struggled so much to make art.
Because it had always...
Because I just did it.
Yeah.
Anyway. Like, and I wasn't afraid. I'm still not afraid to just try stuff. Like, I'm really not scared of making art. And a lot of people are so scared of like, a lot of questions I get online are, how do you deal with art block? How do you deal with the first page of your sketchbook? And how do you always know what to draw? And how do you know what colours to choose? And how do you know how to build up your layers? And like, how do you know how to do things? And it's just because I was never afraid to just dive in there and try stuff.
Yeah.
But that's just because I, as a child, as a teenager, were just constantly doing stuff and constantly trying stuff. And
so what happened when you did a bad drawing, a drawing you didn't like?
I'd just go to the next page.
Yeah.
Or I'd find a way to fix it.
Yeah.
Or I would just chuck it out, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that as
it
well,
was like
a habit.
I learned something with that terrible drawing. Next time I'll do it better.
Yeah. I lost my childhood connection to art. Like, I lost it and creativity, and it has come back recently. Did you lose yours ever at all?
There was about a 4-year gap where I barely made any artwork when I was in my early 20s.
Whoa!
Yeah. And it was weird. So I think what happened, I finished high school, right? And then I went and did 2 years at VCE, Swinburne. I did visual art. So it's TAFE. So It was not university. It's it's just figure out what I want to do. And it was one of those ones where it was like, you get to do all the realms of art. And then like you could choose your major and minor in the last semester or whatever it was. And that was cool. But the teacher was like, only 1% of you will be an artist. And I was like, well, I'm not confident and I am too shy and I don't know what I like and what I like doing. So that's not going to be me. And anyway, I had a great 2 years painting and drawing and sculpting and printmaking and doing all this fun stuff. And then I was like, okay, well, all right, I should maybe think about what career I should do that is not art. And I got into... I mean, I've always been an animal lover, huge animal lover. So I got into pet supplies, just like a little retail shop. That was where I began. I was like, I don't know, 19 or whatever when I got my first job doing that. And that was great. But I did it for like 4 years solid and barely made any artwork.
Yeah.
And
wait, so you worked in like pet retail for 4 years?
I think it was 4 years. Wow. Almost 4 years maybe. Yeah. And I kept a lot of journals when I was in my teens and early 20s. Like I would write in my journals all the time. And I could see if I look back, because I love memory and I love looking back. So every so often I'll read, maybe once a year or once every other year, I'll have a look back. And you could see that I was very anxious, very unsure of who I am, very just like, I don't know, spaced. Like, I don't know where I was in space. Like, who am I? I didn't know who I was. Felt like a mountain. What is it? Like a funnel, like a bottle top of like pressure of like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what to do. And then I decided to go back to school, to go back to uni, and I went into animation and back into the art world. And it was just like the most amazing creative time in my life. I was filling whole sketchbooks in less than a month. Like I was going boom, 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 drawing, and it just felt like a big eruption of art and being like, yes, I have to do this. And my mental health was so much better. And I felt like I felt coloured in again, you know?
When did you decide, like, do you remember what made you decide to go back?
My dad was always like, you should do animation. I was like, nah, I don't want to do animation. And then I did a little bit of travelling. I went to Scotland, and I think I was talking to my auntie about how I'm like, oh, I don't know, pet supplies. And she was like, just go back to school, do art, do something in art. And I was like, yes. Yes, perhaps I will. And I don't know why, I just was looking at all the curriculums and stuff, and animation actually really stood out to me because I loved concept art, I love background art, I love colour, I love characters, I love comics, I love all that kind of stuff. So that's why I chose animation, because it's sort of like a bit of everything. And I love filmmaking, I love making videos. Yeah.
That's interesting, the idea of when you weren't making art, that like lack of sense of who you are.
I barely remembered what happened in those 4 years.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I use my sketchbooks as a bit of a journal as well. And there's just nothing from that
journals.
time. Yeah.
Yep. I didn't know you had like such a long...
It was a long time.
Non-art time.
Yeah.
But even when I met you, you were not super confident.
No. I've changed a lot over the last few years.
Like, you were confident with art,
but I still identified as being really shy.
Yes, but also like not confident in your art with other people, like in terms of
showing it
off and other people liking it.
I was always sharing it online, but it was definitely less me and more like, here's a picture.
Yeah.
This is the title. There you go. And less, like, I feel like now I have a bit more emotional involvement in my posts and art and
absolutely.
Stuff. My dad would always say that I would always say that when I grow up, I never want to talk to anyone ever. And like, look at me now.
That's hilarious.
I have a YouTube. I like...
you would always say, like, I don't want to talk to anyone.
I don't want to see anyone face to face. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to, like, have to deal with people at all.
Wild.
I want to be a hermit in a cave getting money somehow.
That's glorious.
So I think maybe, like, going into the pets, the animal, the dog realm was part of that. Because, yes, I could be totally myself around a dog.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they won't ever care.
Yeah.
They will just love me.
And I can be quiet and hermity and hide.
Yeah. So, question. Do you think your childhood self would look at yourself now and be like, yes, art?
I think, that's interesting. Yeah. My childhood self, beyond thinking internally that she was like a princess and a fairy stuck in a human life and maybe it would all flip someday, this would be like, yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I think I would be very excited. You know, me as a 7-year-old would look at me as a 34-year-old and be like, hell yeah.
Yes.
I'm an artist that just gets to play and paint all day long.
Literally.
And get paid for it. People buy my silly little drawings.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's so interesting.
I feel definitely very connected to how I was when I was young. And I feel like love for that little Sophie who was just being herself, making colours, playing games in her head, and I still do those things.
Yeah.
And I have the best time, and it's nice to be back there.
Heart sparkles!
Heart sparkle, heart sparkle.
Heart sparkles.
We should come up with a little song.
Should.
What is making your heart sparkle?
My cat Mishka.
Yeah.
I've never had a cat. I've always like been a dog person, and even when I got him, I was like, I'm confused. But I'm learning cat language. Like I'm learning the cat things.
He is a really good first cat to have, huh? He's like so smoochy.
He's so smoochy. He's so cuddly, and I feel like I'm figuring out his personality, and that definitely gives me like little heart sparkle moments of connection.
And he's a rescue.
He's
such a good boy.
How about you?
Last week I had a really nice time in my sketchbook. I went and I looked through old childhood photos of old childhood dogs and cats, and I had this like moment while I decided to paint them, these photos, and while I was painting them, I was like, I'm spending time with my childhood dogs again, and it's so nice to see them sniffing in the grass together and playing in the grass together again. And that gave me a big heart sparkle because I just had a really nice time spending time with the dogs. That was a big heart sparkle for me.
I love that.
I like smashed out 4 spreads, I think.
Yes. And they're really beautiful.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
like them.
I like them too.
If you, dear listeners, have any heart sparkles you would like to share, we'd love to hear them.
I love people's heart sparkles.
Yeah.
Because then I get secondhand heart sparkle.
Yeah. It's nice.
It's nice.
It's nice. Please share your heart sparkles with us.
Yeah, yes, please.
And we'll see you.
That's it for today.
Yeah. We'll see you in our next episode.
Yeah.
Who knows when it will be?